This happened almost 20 years ago, when I was 18 years old. I still lived with my parents, even though I had just graduated from high school. I had just bought a new laptop, and after I was done getting it set up, I posted my old one on Craigslist. It was only 2 years old, but back then that meant it was pretty outdated. It was a Dell PC with decent specs, and was almost 2,000 bucks, brand new. I was only asking for 500. Because newer laptops at the time were a lot better. After listing it online, I didn't have to wait long for a response. A guy named Corey messaged me, interested in the laptop, but wanting to see it first. I wanted to set up a time to meet the following week, when I would be downtown. That way we could meet at a coffee shop or something. When I suggested that to Corey, he said that he needed it right away. For that reason, I agreed to let him come over to my house. I knew it would be smarter to meet in public place, but our house was in the suburbs, and I didn't have a car. I know it was lazy and stupid, but I gave him my home address. My parents weren't home, but I figured it would be a quick sale and didn't think anything would go wrong. Corey showed up later that day. It was on a Saturday at about 7 p.m. I saw an older van pull up into the driveway, and a man got out, but he wasn't alone. He had another guy with him. Both of them were at least 30 and much bigger than me. As soon as I saw them, I felt a little scared. Something about their presence felt off, but I brushed the feeling aside. After all, they were just there to look at a laptop. I let them in, and we set up in the kitchen. I began showing the laptop to Corey, and then his friend immediately asked me to use the bathroom. I pointed him in the right direction, which was just around the corner and down a short hallway. Then I focused on showing the laptop to Corey. About 10 minutes passed. While we were looking at it, I had erased it beforehand, so it was basically running as new. Then I suddenly realised that the other man hadn't returned from the bathroom yet. "Hey, is your friend alright?" I asked Corey. "Yeah, you can take a little while sometimes. Don't worry," he reassured me. I listened as closely as I could and heard footsteps. But they weren't coming from the bathroom area. They were coming from upstairs. Since it was just the three of us in the house, I knew it was him. The bathroom was on the main floor, so there was no reason for him to be up there. That is when I started to panic. But I tried to hide it. I casually asked Corey about his friend again, hoping my nervousness wasn't shown. His response was cold and intimidating. He placed his hand on my shoulder, not in a friendly way, but with a lot of pressure. He told me not to worry as he tightened his grip. And in that moment I knew this was more than just a sale gone wrong. We were being robbed. That was possibly the plan from the beginning. Panic set in, but I tried to keep my composure. I told Corey to take whatever they wanted and just go, but he didn't let go of his grip on my shoulder. I started to shake. I knew I had to act fast. I managed to break away and run to my dad's office on the main floor, locking the door behind me. I left my phone on the kitchen table, which was a stupid mistake. Luckily though, there was a landline in the office. That's when I was able to call 911. I frantically explained the situation to the dispatcher. The minutes waiting for the police to arrive were the longest of my life. I could hear the two men stomping around the house, probably stealing whatever they could find. They must have known the police were on their way, because they took off within minutes. I watched out the front window as they went back to their van on the driveway and sped away. When I was sure they had gone, I came out to see what they had taken. The only things I noticed missing on the main floor was a small TV in the kitchen and the laptop that I was selling. However, I later found out that most of my mom's jewellery was taken, as well as at least 200 in cash. The cops showed up about 10 minutes after the robbers left. They stayed for a while, but they left without making any promises. It was pretty unsatisfying. That was the last I ever heard from the police about what happened. I reached out to them several times, but they never got back to me. When my parents and sister got home, I had to explain what happened. They all thought I was joking at first. because I have a dark sense of humour, but when they found out it was real, they were mad. I would estimate the losses at around $3,000, which was a huge amount of money for me at the time. Since it was all my fault, I had to pay it back. That was basically my whole summer of work down the drain, and that was the last time I met a strange person off the internet. This happened in January 2016. I went to the shopping centre, which is about a 30-minute walk from my house. I had taken the bus up there, but it only stops at the shopping centre once an hour. I would usually take the bus home, but this time the bus wasn't due for another 45 minutes. I had done what I needed to do. My 10-year-old brother was at home alone. My mom had no problem with me leaving him alone for an hour or two because he can take care of himself for that amount of time. So I decided to walk back to my house instead of waiting for the bus. On my way home I saw a man maybe 40 or 45 years old walking in the opposite direction to me. I was walking south, he was walking north. As he turned the corner to walk towards me, I got the impression that he didn't look right, probably because as he was walking towards me, he was just staring at me. As he walked past me, I got a sinking feeling like when you're on a plane and it starts its descent. As I continued to walk, I felt like he was following me. So when I got to the bus stop, I acted like I was just checking the bus times, which gave me an excuse to turn around, and once I did, my heart started racing. The guy changed his direction as well, and turned 180 to walk the same direction as me. He was walking faster than before, and this freaked me out. I was close to the road that I would usually turn up to get to my street. I took the turn and walked about 25 meters when I heard the crunching of crisp packet on the sidewalk that I knew that I had passed before. He was still behind me. I decided to cross the road to put more distance between us. From there I could take the long way home. This longer way has a lot of corners which would make it harder for the guy to follow me. The street also had a lot of teenagers which were home for summer holidays, so if the guy tried anything, there would be a lot of people there who would likely hear me screaming. You may be wondering why I didn't call the police. That's because I made a big mistake and left my phone at home. Even if I did have it, I probably wouldn't have called for fear of provoking something. I'm about 172 centimeters and I weigh 64 kilos. Even though my weight is mostly muscle, I'm not large enough to take on someone who's nearly 2 meters tall and double my weight. The next time I turned around to look behind me, he was still there. That's when I started to make my plan to get back to my house. I turned the next corner and sprinted along the path as quietly as I could. I was on my side of the street by then. If I was going straight home, I would have gone left, but went straight ahead towards a small park that was just up the street from my house. The reason I did that was because I could go through the park and around to get back to my house. As I was crossing the road to the park, I looked back and I saw him jogging up the path. He saw me and started sprinting towards me. Luckily, I had a 150-meter head start. I ran through the park and around to the left. The area around there is like a maze, so this gave me a slight advantage. Once I was behind the park and out of sight, I continued sprinting for a house that had an old shed in its front yard. The shed was empty and the door was always open. So I hid in there. I was able to see through a window, and he was looking around for me. Then he walked the way that I was planning on going to get back to my house. I was still too scared to leave the shed, so I waited there for about 10 minutes before I saw him walking back towards the park on his phone. I heard part of what he was saying on the other end. Yeah, I lost her, but I think she lives around here. She's crafty. Even after he passed, I waited another 10 minutes before leaving the shed and sprinting up towards my house. I called my mom and she called the police, who in turn called me. I gave a description of the man and refused to leave the house alone for a week. I never saw him again, and and the police report hasn't come up with anything. This is a short story, but it happened to me just a few days ago. I'm an 18-year-old female, and I live in a small town in Australia. I took my 12-year-old Jack Russell mix for a short 20-minute walk down the road at about 7:30 p.m. The sun was just starting to set, and I could see, but not too well. That could have been just because of my poor eyesight, but I was still able to manage without a flashlight. We had just made our loop around a small community garden. As I was leaving through the gate, I looked to my right and saw a person in all black heading towards me. I was also wearing all black, so we both must have looked pretty suspicious. I panicked. I crossed the road. The dark figure did the same. I'm a naturally fast walker, but I forced myself to go even faster. All I had to do was cross the road one more time, then turn right, and go past a few houses, and I would be home. I started walking even faster, but not so fast that it would look obvious. I crossed the road and turned right. The person didn't cross the road, but he did turn right and stayed on the other side of the road. I knew that if he crossed, I could run and I wasn't too far from home. When I got into my yard, the person stopped across the street. At this point, I realized the door was locked and I didn't have the key. The person just stood there looking at me. I rang the bell and started pounding on the door. My older brother answered it, and that person made his way into our yard. My brother told the person to F off, and then he walked back the way he came. My brother asked me who was that, and then I told him what had just happened. Thanks a million to everyone who likes, subscribes and comments on my videos. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed these 3 stories, you'll enjoy the video in the box above. Thank you.